Hey friends, it's Nikki here with Stillwater's Wreath Designs, and welcome to my channel. If you love all things wreath making, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Today we're going to make a cardinal themed welcome wreath using the poof and curl method. I've got a new camera set up, folks, so hopefully we'll have some better visibility than usual today. So let me show you some of the materials that we'll be using. We're going to use this 15-inch work wreath frame. If you're not familiar with work wreath frames, friends, they come to you just as you see it here. It's got two levels, if the camera can capture that for you, a couple of inches apart, a lower and an upper. And depending on where you get your work wreath frame, you'll have 15 to 18 ties. These are what we call ties here. And what they're like is basically like a stiff, thicker version of a Chanel stem or pipe cleaner that comes already attached on the frame for you to add in your deco mesh, ribbons, and all of the things to build your wreath on. This particular one has 17. Friends, I will leave a supplies and tools list for you in the description below, so you'll be able to recreate this. All right, some of the other supplies we'll be using will be a various 10-inch deco mesh. We're going to use this burlap colored 10-inch deco mesh for the poofs, and then we're going to be adding in some white and red and white curls to each poof as well. We may or may not use this welcome sign. And then I've grabbed a boatload of different types of wired ribbon to add our bow and some ribbon tails into our wreath. And they're primarily red, burlap, white, and of course I grabbed this super cute cardinal wired ribbon with the red trim. You're also going to need a good pair of scissors or your rotary cutter and your self-healing mat. Friends, if you're new to wreath making or new to my channel, you know, one of the first things I would tell you to grab and add to your home wreath making toolbox would be a self-healing mat and a rotary cutter. Kind of works like a pizza cutter, but it lets you cut your mesh with a really precise edge and super quickly. They're very cost effective and they'll last you forever. So definitely add that to your toolbox. All right, friends, we've got the tag, so let's go ahead and add in our poofs. And we're going to use 10-inch poofs for this wreath. So if you're new to the poof making method, basically what you're going to do is roll out your 10-inch deco mesh. And real quickly, friends, this is basically, you know, just a recipe. You've probably heard me say that before if you've been on my channel for a while. So I'm going to be making this cardinal wreath with this particular method, but certainly tweak it and make it your own with your own colors of deco mesh, your own ribbons, and all those things. This is just a recipe. And to make a poof, friends, we want them to be 10 inches in length. But first, we need to add in our first poof. I recommend starting on the lower level of your work wreath frame. And you're just going to roll out your deco mesh, and then on the edge here, with your fingers stationary, you're just going to pull and gather your deco mesh into your fingers until it's a nice little bunch. Like so. You'll just have this little couple of inches of a scraggly looking tail. Also, if you've not worked with deco mesh before, it likes to fray. So we like to do as much as we can to prevent that fray. And so once you've got your end gathered into your fingers and you've got this 2-inch tail, go ahead and just fold it under. We're gonna tuck that tail away so it gets very little exposure or opportunity to fray. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with the lower level of our work wreath frame. You're going to take your deco mesh that you've gathered and folded over, and we're going to place that in the center of the ties. And remember, these are called ties. and there's 2 per tie. You're just going to open those up into a wide V. Take your deco mesh and press that all the way to the center at the base of that V, leaving about an inch, inch and a half overhang. And then take those chenille stems and give them 2 super duper tight twists to hold that in place. I'm going to take a second here and just take my upper level of stems, friends, and point those to the center so that they don't get in our way. And we need to make a 10-inch poof, friends. So what we're going to do, I'm going to place where these ties are at on my 15-inch mark and just pull my mesh out to the 25-inch mark, which will give me the 10-inch poof. So once you've identified that 10-inch length, just like what we did at the beginning, friends, you're going to take your fingers and hold them stationary, and then pinch and gather your deco mesh, walking it into your thumbs. And then once you've done that, grab a hold of it pretty tightly and move on to the next stem. But I'm going to show you a trick. If you take this deco mesh that we've measured at 10 inches, right, and we pull that over to the side to see where that lands on our work wreath frame, you can see that our fingers are about an inch shy of 2 sets of ties over. So basically that tells me moving forward, if I don't want to measure each and every poof, I can just pull my deco mesh to an inch or so shy of that second set of ties, and that will give me my 10-inch poof. And then I can pinch and gather, pull that poof back, and add that straight down into the V of that next set of chenille stems. And just like before, friends, give it a couple of super duper tight twists to hold that guy in place. And we've just added our first poof. So at this point, you can either measure it like we did the first time, or you can take your deco mesh and go over to the second set of ties, skip the next set, jump to this one, and about an inch shy, you know that that's going to give you that 10-inch poof, because remember we measured that last time. Just a little shortcut for you if you'd like to follow that method instead of measuring each time. And just like before, I'm going to take that gathered up deco mesh, place it all the way down at the center of the V of this next set of ties, give it a couple of tight twists, poof out, fluff out my poof, and move on to the next one. All right, friends, you've made your 10-inch poofs all the way around your lower level, and you're getting ready to add in your last poof on that lower level, which is also where we started. And you've got your little 1-inch tail, and you're going to add that in just as you have all the others. Go ahead and make your 10-inch poof. Hold that in your fingers and come back to this first set of ties where we added our poof in, and gently untie those, and you'll see it's going to stay in place. Add that poof, your last poof for the lower level, right on top of where we started. Push it all the way down to the base and give it a couple of tight twists. Okay, so now it's time to do the exact same thing on the upper level. Earlier, I had pointed all of my ties towards the center, and we're going to leave them just like that. And for the upper level, friends, we're going to make 8-inch poofs. We want them to be a little bit smaller than that lower level. And so what we're going to do first, before we can make our poof, is jump our deco mesh up to our upper level. So that last poof where we left off, friends, go ahead and grab your deco mesh, and pulling it tautly, just find that next closest set of available ties, doesn't matter if it's in front or behind where you're adding, and keeping that taut, go ahead and pull that into the V of that first set of upper level chenille stems and give it 2 tight twists. So as you can see here, friends, we didn't make a poof. We literally just pulled it straight up tautly and added that to the V of the first available chenille stems. And now we need to measure out for our 8-inch poof. So you're gonna do just like what we did on the lower level. Take that first set of ties where we jumped up to the upper level and then measure out 8 inches. So I can see that that's here. And then I'm going to scrunch and gather that in my fingers. And let's see where that falls on our upper level. That's basically 1 inch shy again of that second tie because they're closer together. So we'll know that moving forward. And just like before, friends, gather it together, add it all the way down to the center of that next set of chenille stems and give it a couple of tight twists. And you've just made your 8-inch poof. So I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing here. Scrunching and gathering, making my 8-inch poofs, pressing that all the way down to the center. So I'm going to pull that forward to the second set of ties, then pull it back, add it into that next set of chenille stems, give it a couple of tight twists, give it a fluff, and move on to the next. Go ahead and add your 8-inch poofs all the way around that upper level of your wreath frame, and I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, when you're ready to add your last 8-inch poof on that upper level, you're going to go ahead and make that poof just like what you did all of the other poofs, measuring out your 8 inches, scrunching and gathering it into your hands. And then you're just going to gently open up those ties where we had jumped from the lower level to the upper. Just carefully open them. Place that last 8-inch poof down in the center and give it a couple of tight twists. And then you've just added your last 8-inch poof to your upper level. Go ahead and grab a good pair of scissors, and now we need to cut this deco mesh off. So you're going to leave, an inch and a half of material, making sure you're careful and you don't accidentally cut one of your poofs. And just cut that deco mesh right off, leaving you with this little bitty tail. And don't worry about that, friends. Nobody's going to see that. Okay, friends, we've loaded our work wreath frame full of 8 and 10-inch poofs. It's looking pretty good, but it's also looking airy. And so now we're going to go ahead and add in curls to our wreath. And we're actually going to use the double curl method. And what that means, friends, is that we are going to add 2 curls to every single set of ties all the way around our wreath on both the upper and lower levels. So go ahead and sit your work wreath off to the side. For this recipe, friends, I'm going to be using red and white 10-inch deco mesh for my curls. And again, you can use a good pair of scissors and some way to measure your mesh or your rotary cutter and self-healing mat. And remember, we've got 17 sets of ties. So we're going to need 17 10-inch cuts of our white mesh and 17 cuts of our red and white, or our red. And we're going to make these curls at 10 inches in length. Remember, this is a 10-inch roll. So we're just going to cut this into 10-inch pieces, just like so. And so you'll have 17 cuts of each color. So go ahead and cut all of your 10-inch deco mesh curls up, and I'll meet you back here. All right, once you've got all of your curls cut and ready to go ahead and grab your wreath frame. And we're going to add 2 curls, as I mentioned earlier, to every single set of ties. I find it easy to grab a chip clip or clothespin or something to help hold my curls as I'm making them. And let me show you what we're going to do here, friends. We're going to take our first piece of deco mesh that's 10 by 10, and you're going to lay it on your workstation so that the curl side is up. And we're going to just roll the entire piece onto itself to create this curl. It's probably about 1 inch or so in diameter in the center, and then it flares out a bit on each end. Once I've made that first curl, I'm going to use my chip clip to hold that guy together. And then I'm going to grab my next piece of deco mesh and do the exact same thing. I'm going to make a curl, rolling that onto itself all the way to the end until I've got this cute curl. And then I'll grab the first curl that I made. Make a gentle X with your curls so that your seam is down. And it doesn't matter, friends, if you start on the top or bottom of your wreath. You're going to add those 2 curls into your set of ties all the way at the base. Give them a couple of tight twists to hold them in place, and move on to the next. All right, friends, we have loaded our wreath with 2 curls per set of ties. So we've used the poof and the double curl method. Really an effective method if you want a really full and thick wreath. This is probably every bit of 8 to 10 inches thick, and we've not even added our bows or our tails in yet. So definitely a big bougie wreath. Remember, friends, we're going to add this super cute welcome sign into this wreath. And what I did to prep this wreath, friends, it actually comes with a burlap hanger on it, and I just cut that guy right off. And then I added 2 1 by 1 inch mounting brackets, and then I ran a bead of glue around each bracket just for some extra strength and security. If you're not familiar with mounting brackets, friends, they come in a package like this. Typically I order them in packages of 100, and they'll last me every bit of 6 months. And here's what they look like, friends. They're just 1 inch by 1 inch. They're plastic, and on each side, if the camera can capture that, there's holes so that you can run your Chanel stem, your floral wire, whatever you're using to attach your sign to your wreath. And then the back has some 3M sticky tape. It does stick pretty good, but like I mentioned earlier, friends, I go ahead and peel that off, push my brackets down where I like them on my sign, and then I just run a quick bead of hot glue all the way around those perimeters just to really give it that strength and stability. So I've actually done that here ahead of time. And the next step here, friends, is to get this guy attached to our wreath. And like I mentioned just a second ago, friends, you can use Chanel stems, you can use floral wire, you could even use zip ties if you'd like. I'm going to use these floral wire pre-cut stems. I usually get these from Hobby Lobby. I don't remember how many is in here, friends, a ton. This will last me every bit of a year or two, and they're probably 18 inches in length. Yes, that's exactly what they are, and they are a heavy tensile strength. And what I do, friends, is I just fold this in half gently to get an idea of where that center is, make a loose V here, and then I just run it right through that opening on the bracket and give it one loose twist just so it doesn't slide out. And then I do the exact same thing on the other end, friends. Just fold that guy in half to get a ballpark idea of where that center is. Doesn't have to be perfect. Run it through those openings on your mounting square. Give it a twist to keep it from sliding out, and you've just attached your 2 pieces of wire. Now at this point, friends, there's really no top or bottom to your wreath. So you can add it wherever you'd like. You could add that on your lower level, the upper level, maybe off to the one side or the other. I'm actually going to put mine smack in the center. And the first thing you want to do is take that upper level of ties and just kind of push them so that they're pointing away from the center of your wreath. You don't want them to get lost up in there. And then we're just going to push these wire ties straight through our mesh, through to the back side of this wreath. So bear with me one moment and we'll get that done. Just eyeball where you'd like your sign. Once you get that first set of wires pushed through, you can just do one side at a time and kind of hold that sign where you want it. Flip it over, find your floral wires, and you want to make sure if you're using a wreath form like I'm doing here with the 2 levels, you want those wires wrapped around those 2 levels of wire so that they really have a good security. Just giving it a couple of twists, make sure it didn't move. I'm going to flip it back over. It's still in the center of my wreath and not pulled too far, so I'm happy with that placement. So I'm going to give it a couple more tight twists here. And then I'll trim off that excess. Now grab your needle nose pliers, friends, because those ends are sharp, and just give them a couple of twists to marry those ends together. And while you're doing that, kind of curl them down and under, because you don't want to poke you or your customer's door, or yourself for that matter. Once you've got that poked under and out of the way, take your glue gun, run just a little bit of glue right over the wreath frame where that floral wire or your Chanel stem or whatever you've used meets that frame to help it keep from sliding around. And then just give it a minute or so to dry. Once that's dried, friends, flip your wreath back over and we're going to follow those exact same steps on the other side. You're just going to want to make sure that your sign stays in the middle of your wreath, and you can tell based on how many Chanel stems are above and below where your sign is at. So for instance, we've attached it here and we've got one on the side, then we have 1, 2, 3 Chanel stems, one on the side, and 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. So if you've got an equal number amount of ties, okay, let's see here. Here we go. So just like before, friends, I'm just gonna put those wires around the frame of our wreath. Give it a couple of twists just to make sure it's in place, and then I'll adjust it if I need to. Needed to scoot that guy over just a little bit. And then I'll finish twisting 4 or 5 pretty good twists here. And then taking your snips, just trim off that excess bit of wire. Grab your needle nose and give it a couple of good solid twists here and poke those wire ends under. Again, you don't want to poke you or your customer's door or yourself. And then take your glue gun and just run a little bead of glue over your wreath frame where that floral wire or Chanel stem meets, and give it a couple of minutes to dry. All right, friends, that glue's had enough time to dry. And let me just show you, you'll see that some of your curls and some of the pretties of our deco mesh are trapped underneath our sign here. So when you flip your wreath over, which by the way, it's already looking so stinking cute, just pull those curls out and bring them up to the light here. They are too pretty to be tucked away. So we'll just bring those fellows right out. And you've got your ties pointing away from the center of your wreath. All right, how cute is that coming along, guys? So cute. That double curl method just really gives tons of body and depth and dimension to our wreath. I'm really happy with it. We're going to go ahead and set this off to the side as we make our bow. Friends, let me just take a quick pause. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm a newer YouTube channel and really excited to grow, and I've got a goal for myself to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm just a little over 800, so I'm really hoping to reach that by 4th of July. So I would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button as well if you love all things to do with wreath making, and I sure appreciate each and every one of you. All right, guys, let's set this off to the side to make our bow. We're going to put a pretty decent sized bow up here in the corner. And I've got some cardinal attachments that we may or may not be putting down here in the corner. We'll see how things look after we add the ribbon. Friends, we're going to go ahead and make a hand bow for our wreath. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly so that we can continue on with the creation of our wreath. But I wanted to tell you real quickly, if you are new to wreath making, or if you just struggle with bow making in general, I'll link a couple of additional tutorials for you below in the description of this video that will really walk you step by step through how to make some hand bows so that you can get some comfort with that. So I always use, friends, a zip tie. This is just a 6-inch, they're calling it clear, but it's more of a milky white zip tie. This is generally what I use to secure my bows. So I've grabbed one of those, and of course I've got a good pair of scissors here. Look how cute this ribbon is. It's kind of tricky to find cardinal ribbon that doesn't look Christmassy, but this is adorable. It's actually on burlap, and then I'm not sure if the camera is capturing that for you, friends, but the edging here is glittery, and there's glitter trim throughout the cardinals, and then again the trim and then the berries on the branch is all glittery, so it's a very bougie looking ribbon. I'm excited to make a bow with this. And then I also grabbed some see-through, it's actually Christmas ribbon, but it's the perfect shade of red. And it's almost just like a loosely woven, rough, glittery ribbon. And then I grabbed some polka dot ribbon. I'm not sure what we're going to use in the bow here. We'll just see how it comes together. And some white glittery, and then I've got some browns and burlaps. You can use as many or as few ribbons as you would like, friends, when you're making your bows. I would just tell you that it always is pretty important that you use wired ribbon so that your bows can really hold the shape that you want them to. If you don't use wired ribbon, they get a little bit floppy, quite honestly, and they won't hold the shape that you would want. So doesn't matter, again, what width you have, just make sure that's wired. All right, friends, I'm going to zoom through making this hand bow, and again, I'll leave those tutorials for you below if that's easier for you, if you're needing some additional assistance with bow making. All right, friends, I have finished my bow here, and I typically fluff out my bows after I've got them added into my wreath, which is a little bit backwards from what other people do. And as you can see, I've got 2 loops of this really cute metallic-y, loosely woven red, 4 loops with the cardinals, and then a smaller 2-looper with the white here, just to help some of this DECO mesh pop out. And so I'm just going to add this to this upper left set of ties. Making sure my tails and everything are going in the right direction. Just going to give that set of ties a couple of tight twists to hold our bow in place. And then using my snips, I'm going to go ahead and trim off the rest of those ties because we don't need them. And curl those bits under a little bit so that they're out of the way. And then we'll do what I call a rough fluff of this bow. I'm not going to really trim the tails yet until we see exactly where we want everything to be hanging. Cute, cute, cute. I'm so excited. This is actually a Mother's Day gift from for one of my customers that they placed an order recently. I'm going to go ahead and trim these tails a little bit. I'm just going to angle trim today, friends. I always recommend trimming gently. You can always take more off, but you sure can't put it back on. If you've been around on my channel for any length of time, you've probably heard me say that 100 times. And I like varying lengths because I think that just gives all the ribbons visibility and some whimsy to our wreath. And because these are wire ribbons, friends, they'll take the shape that we want them to. We're going to have to do a little bit more trimming, but we're going to hold off for now. This is going to be so cute. I'm so excited to give this to my customer. We're going to end up using this cardinal. How cute is this? I actually got this from Amazon of all places. And it came with the clip built on, and that's going to be a perfect fit. We'll actually just attach it to one of these stems once we're nearly done here. So what we're going to do at this point, friends, because we've got these double curls added in, we don't need, I don't believe we don't need any ribbon tails. You could certainly do that if you wanted to really give it some extra depth and dimension. I'm just going to add a set of tails down here at the bottom near where we're going to add our cardinal. And so I'm going to actually get those. So we're going to get those tails cut. I'll probably add them right here, friends, so that they can poof over. And then, you know, we'll clip our cardinal there when we're finished. Typically, I would just make one long piece of ribbon to add a set of large tails to the corner. But because this ribbon is one directional, I'm having to cut it. I don't want my cardinals to be upside down. So I've cut it, and they're going to actually be added right there. That's probably a 24-inch cut, friends. I'm going to add that down here to the lower level of our wreath. So I'm laying these cut pieces one end over the other. So, and they're pointing in opposite directions. I'll lay that in the middle of this red piece. You can see there's some overhang, but then once we fold that down over into our chenille stems, then those cardinals will be going in the right direction. So I'm just going to fold those over my thumb, make a loose V, add those all the way down to the center of that set of ties, and give it several tight twists. And then we'll fluff out these tails and give them a trim. Yep, that's going to be super cute. We'll give those a trim in just a second, friends. First, I'm going to take my snips and go through the wreath and trim off all of the excess bits of ties that we've had, since we don't need them anymore. I've got all of our ties trimmed down, with the exception of the single set here where we're going to add our cardinal. Our glue gun is still heated. And I think we can literally just clip this guy right onto our ties here as if they were a branch. And then I'm just adding our cardinal onto that tie. He is sitting so cute. My goodness. Just can't wait to give this to my customer. I think she's going to be so happy. I'm folding that tie a little bit over that clip. And then I'm going to use my glue gun and just add a discreet little strip of glue to make sure that that guy is firmly attached. We'll give him a few minutes to dry, and while he does, we'll fluff out these tails. All right, I'm going to angle cut those again, just like I did with our bow, at varying lengths so that all these ribbons get their time to shine. And then we can take our fingers and just kind of use them to pull the ribbon up and out, to really give them that nice bump and flow. How cute did this turn out, you guys? Oh my goodness. So excited to give this to my customer. I hope you enjoyed this wreath tutorial today. And again, if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the alert bell so that you can be alerted every time I upload a new video. I do upload videos usually twice a week, every week. And please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.